During the presidential campaign last year, President Donald J. Trump promised the American people he would nominate an unwavering supporter of the United States Constitution to the Supreme Court. He has now kept that promise, Mr. President. I personally applaud the President for nominating Judge Neil Gorsuch to serve in the United States Supreme Court. He's an outstanding choice. Throughout his career, Judge Gorsuch has been a stalwart, standing strong in support of the United States Constitution. He's repeatedly shown his commitment to our country's founding principles of economic opportunity, fiscal responsibility, limited government, and individual liberty. These principles have served to make our nation exceptional throughout our history. Each branch of government has the shared charge of preserving and protecting those rights for all Americans. Judge Gorsuch has led a remarkable career in both the public and private sectors and has demonstrated a keen understanding and appreciation of the law. He has an outstanding academic record. He's an outsider to the political nonsense here in this town. He has an impeccable judicial record, and he's actually called the judge's judge in the Scalia mold. He's a mainstream judge. Actually, when he was confirmed in his current position, he was actually confirmed by 11 Democrats who are still in this body today, including Senators Leahy, Feinstein, Schumer, and Durbin. Clearly, Judge Gorsuch will honor the formidable, impressive legacy of defending the Constitution left by Justice Scalia. Throughout last year, Mr. President, I and other members of the Senate held our ground in saying no nominee to the Supreme Court should be confirmed until after the presidential election. We believed the American people deserved a voice in the process. We also knew that the hyperpartisanship in politics of a presidential election cycle should never have any place in the nomination and confirmation of a Supreme Court justice, which, Mr. President, we all know is a lifetime appointment. The integrity of the advice and consent process, clearly spelled out in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, was at stake. In protecting the integrity of this sacred constitutional process, we did our job. Our position was exactly the same, ironically, held by former Vice President Biden, former Minority Leader Harry Reid, and others in earlier times and earlier arguments. Now that President Trump has announced his nomination, it's time to continue doing our job. I hope that the Minority Leader and members of the Minority Party will walk away from the hypocrisy that they're already demonstrating this year. Last June, the current Minority Leader tweeted, and I quote, this is last June, "In order for justice to remain a pillar of this nation, we must have a functioning judicial branch. The Supreme Court of the United States must have 9 sitting justices," unquote. Later that same month, the Minority Leader also said on the floor of the United States Senate, and I quote, "Every day that goes by without a 9th justice is another day the American people's business is not getting done," unquote. So why would the current Minority Leader and some of the Democrats in this body now say that they will filibuster any nominee to the Supreme Court before even knowing who would be nominated? The Minority Leader railed on the Senate floor, yet last month he went on CNN and said, and I quote, "We absolutely would keep the seat open. We will fight it tooth and nail as long as we have to," unquote. Again, before a nominee was even announced. The political theater of 2016 had no place in the confirmation process this year. Now is the time to govern, not to engage in the far-off political theater of 2018 and 2020. As we move forward in this process, I hope the Minority Leader and my colleagues across the aisle will remember that. I hope they'll put the integrity of the Constitution before the scope of their political ambitions and their bitterness about last year's election outcome. I would remind my colleagues across the aisle that Republicans put aside political theater to confirm 2 justices to the Supreme Court under both President Obama and President Clinton. Now President Trump has nominated Judge Neil Gorsuch to a principal judge who will put the Constitution of the United States and the rights of all Americans at the forefront of any decision he takes. Judge Gorsuch's record of service and his commitment to the Constitution is quite clear. I'm looking forward to voting to confirm his nomination and to ensuring we have a fully functioning high court. I strongly urge my colleagues across the aisle to put aside their personal partisan self-interest and do what's right for our country. Our children and our children's children deserve nothing less.